welcome back. This is Sherry with Heart and Soap. I am back in the studio and I keep playing. I can't stop myself and go work on the journal that I am in the middle of. But I didn't record this fun session, but I wanted to show you the papers I did. And then they're the same kind of process that I did in the last video where I used distressed oxides from Tim Holtz instead of some of the spices and things to get different colors. So I'm going to show you real quick this as I kind of do this intro. This group of papers I did in the same exact way that I did the last video. And I just love all the detail, and I don't think it's going to show up on camera, but I just wanted to kind of get some more color going on these grungy papers. And I was asked if I would do a digital kit, and I am planning to do that with my favorites once I kind of finish playing. So it'll probably all end up in one kit. But this group I also dried in the oven, and some of the papers like this one, I don't know if you can even see, but all this texture that looks like big blobs, this is all texture. And it's because this piece of paper, when I did it in the oven, it like bubbled up. And so, you know, it's like if you did something with dough and it bubbled up and then it went back together. So I can actually kind of feel little voids all in this one. And I don't know why just this one piece of paper, but it may be a different weight paper. Maybe I was using heavier paper for the rest of these. But I just love how some of these turned out. So I'm going to be putting together a digital kit, like I said. And I did find, after I did this batch, I decided to force myself to be patient and do the next batch, drying it on the floor in my studio so that I could get some wrinkles on the back from the plastic garbage bags that I'm using to lay my items out. So I really kind of love how these turned out using the distress oxides. And again, in this group, some of these, I didn't do the coffee staining on both sides like I did on some of them. You'll see that I did that in the last video. And I'll put a link down below for a coffee dyed playlist maybe, so that all these videos are together and you can kind of watch some of the previous ones. But anyway, these were done in the same way. And again, this one had all the little bubbles too, where it's actually, the layers are peeling up. But I really liked how some of the colors came out. So I wanted to show them, even though I didn't record myself doing this whole batch. So this was the one that was done just the same as the other one. And you can see that it's really hard to get these totally flat when you've dried them in the oven that way. They just get cooked more. So the next batch that I did, and I think this is the one that I did show. I'm not sure, I've done so many now. I'm going to put these samples to the side. I've done so many now, and I haven't recorded everything, but I know I did not record this. I wanted to do some practice first. These I dried on the floor, and I'll show you front and back, even though I didn't record this. But I love how some of the colors turned out. This is the demo that I'm going to do today. I used a different weight of paper. I think most of these I was running out of paper, so I went and bought a ream of just regular cheap copy paper, pen and gear from Walmart, and I got a 24-pound. So it's in between the 20-pound and the 28-pound that I was using previously. I'm about out of the 32-pound. So I actually really like the 24-pound weight, and I actually really like being patient and drying them on the floor because they come out much flatter. They didn't get that bubbling. And then I also have the benefit of getting these wrinkles on the back from the garbage bag. So I'm going to try to be patient and continue doing that. But I still used, you know, the salt and all that sort of thing to get the texture. So I'll just try to not take too long. So this one has some metallic in it. But this is with a different technique. Similar, some of the same items, but then I instead of the distressed oxide, I'm using inks and alcohol. So I'll go over this list in case you haven't watched the previous videos, but this just gives you an idea of some of this one, you see the wrinkles on the back, of some of the things that I'm hoping to achieve. And I really like that there's a little bit of color, but they're still grungy, you know, so you kind of, you can, if whatever your taste is, if you like lots of color, you can do brighter color. But I am trying to work with grungy, coffee stained things. So if you ask yourself, why are you doing them like this? Why aren't you just doing them the way you're supposed to? I'm not trying to get those bright colors. I want a little bit of color, but I still want my grungy look, and I want them to be kind of subtle. They're going to be backgrounds, so. And this was part of my experiment. Sometimes things don't go the way that I want, and this is where I started, and I was kind of figuring out how the inks wanted to play on my paper. So this is kind of what we're going to do today. And if you ask me, you know, sometimes I'll get comments, well, you should try this, or did you try that? A lot of times I have tried those things, but I don't put them in the video in a case like this where I've tried it ahead of time. Certain things aren't working for the look I'm trying to get, and so maybe I don't share those. For example, the type of paper that I use. So I'm going to be working with alcohol inks today. And you know that with alcohol inks, they work great on Yupo paper. If you're not familiar with Yupo paper, it's actually what is intended to be used with alcohol inks. And it reminds me, let me pull one out here. It's a heavy paper. This one is anyway. And it has a kind of, it's not shiny, but it has a cardstock weight to it. And although it's not shiny, it's not matte. It's kind of somewhere in between. And it's what you get, these beautiful spreading your ink when you're using alcohol and alcohol ink. So I thought, well, what if someone doesn't have this and they want that sort of effect? Then what else could you use? So I tried a couple of things just for fun. And one of those, well, two of those, I think one of them is this one. I decided to try using photo paper. So this is matte photo cardstock. And you can see you get some of the effects that you do when you use a Yupo paper, but not quite the same. And then this, to me, you did get more of that effect. I know it's really busy because I did a lot at the end, but I started out not a lot. And I'll try to do one. I'm kind of low on this paper, but just to show you the difference, what happens. The only thing I don't really like about this is that then it's shiny. It worked better on a higher gloss photo paper than the matte photo paper. And this is just cheap matte photo cardstock, Penn & Garrett's Walmart's brand of cheap paper. So I'm going to pull one of these out because it's cardstock. And I got it to print photos on, but I thought I had it, so I might as well play with it. So I'm going to pull one piece of that out to play with, and then I'll also get a piece of this shiny just to show you. So this, if you can see it, this is just Hewlett-Packard HP Advanced photo paper, glossy photo paper. I'll do one of those. And then the other thing that I used was a thick vellum paper, and I'll link this down below also, and it's just printable vellum. So I wanted to do that too, just for fun. And that piece turned out, I love it. It's super grungy, and I'll put it against this white so you can see. But I absolutely love this effect. Now, it's hard to get it super flat at the end. I feel the texture of it a lot. I don't know if you can see it, but it really holds the texture. But this scanned for a kit is going to be gorgeous. So I'm going to probably do some more, even just to make some vellum envelopes or different things. I love how this turned out. So I'll be doing more with vellum, and I'll do a piece of that today just so you can see how it reacts and how it is to work with it. So those are the three kind of unique papers that I'm going to use. And I think this was then just my regular 24-pound that I just purchased. And again, I dried it on my bag, so it came out with the wrinkles on the back that I really like. So I'm going to use those 4 different papers today. And then I'm going to pull out my tray, which is getting quite dirty with salt on it. The other things that I'm going to use are the same. And I actually got smart. I'm trying to not be as messy. I just grabbed this little plastic lid, and I still have my coffee, just diluted coffee using instant coffee. Again, if you haven't been watching these videos, just the cheapest brand of instant coffee in this one. This one is my lemon juice, and I found that it didn't react as well to the inks that I'm going to use today. So I'll do an experiment to show you, but it didn't do as much. It does fine with the coffee and the India ink. And I've got India ink in here. I'm going to use it again because I like the contrast. And again, you can use any brand, but it reacts a certain way. It really breaks up with the acidic material that we're going to use and the alcohol. I'm not diluting this as much today because I want some good dark splatters just for fun. And then this one is, again, my lemon juice. And I have this mixed about half and half. I used real lemons again. You can see the pulp. It's about half lemon juice, half water. And then the cup that I'm adding today is just cheap, regular rubbing alcohol from the pharmacy. So this is 91% alcohol. So you want to work in a ventilated area because you have the alcohol and it is smelly, and so you don't want to be, breathing that in all day. So make sure you have a window open or nice ventilation. And so I've got those 4 things sitting here in my tray off to the side. I'm still going to use my salt. I have a little shaker of fine salt, and then I put some of those coffee grounds into another shaker just for sprinkling. And then I have my coarse salt also. That's probably the one I prefer. They do give different textures. Let me grab something and see if that I used both on to see if... Okay, this is going to be super subtle, but I used both on this. So if you look here, you'll see like this white spot, some of the brighter, larger white spots, and I didn't use very much of the coarse salt, but those larger spots, these in here, that's from the coarse salt. But then when you use the fine salt, you get this texture. So it is nice, even in one paper, to use both, because if you're trying to have this look in your mind like natural stone or something like that, stone is not all the same. So you might have some finer areas and then coarser areas. So I like to mix that up. Okay, so we have our tray, we have our 4 important things. I have a thing of water here that's filthy at this point. I'm using a fan brush to make my splatters. The other thing that I found that I had that's super handy is this little pipette. And it's just, you can use a straw, I suppose, if you don't have a little skinny straw where you can put your finger on the top to have some liquid come up this part. And then, you'd release it. It's going to come out a lot, so it's probably splattering with the brushes better. But this is handy because I can just squeeze the bulb at the end and I get some liquid in there, and then I can just drop if I want. And so it gives you another different effect. You can also use a straw and blow things around. I'm just rolling it with tipping my tray, and you can also use even my heat gun just to kind of move. You'll see the little puddles around. But for the look I want to get, I really liked just using this in my splatters. I did try some other things, but I wasn't as happy with the result as I was with this. So I'm going to use that a little bit. And what else I'm using is I had some alcohol inks. And so I'm going to use, this is just my little thing I keep all my alcohol stuff in that I don't use very often, but I just have a few different colors. These are from Ranger of alcohol inks. And I do have my other inks still here, the metallics. I may use a little bit of that. I do have a couple of ink sprays. These are Delusions ink sprays. And I have this Scorched Timber Distress ink. I don't know if I'll use any of that or not, but I've left these kind of here. Water bottle's handy to have just in case you want to get some water on that instant coffee or something like that. And then the other thing that I grabbed this time, just because it made it easier, is just a little tray instead of trying to do all these cups. Because I'm using such small amounts to make my splatters, this was handy to have just to drop a few bits. You'll see, I'll use this. So that's handy to have too. So I think that's all that we need for materials. So let's just get started. And maybe I'm going to start with these specialty papers, just so we can see how they work. So this one is just the photo paper that's not glossy, just the cheap photo paper. And I didn't really notice a huge, any kind of huge benefit to using this. But just because I'll get people commenting, have you tried this or that? I just want to show you what it's like to maybe try different things on different papers. So I'm going to get that back side and I'm going to flip it over because you see it's rolling up. So let's start with just a little of that. So this is just the coffee, and I'm just going to, make some things just so we can see some kind of reaction. So if you remember, when you have these spots and you just go with your citrus, this is from the previous video, you see how those, I'll hold this up close just so you can see what happens. You get a little white dot. I know these are really light because I don't have a lot of contrast, but the acidity kind of just makes it spread out. So I'm going to kind of let that sit there. And then I'm going to grab some of the Indie ink just because it does react differently. So this, again, I've diluted, but not very much. So you can do some larger dot spots like that. If you use your fan brush, you can make some fine ones. So that's how you're going to get that variety of sizes, which I like. And then if I hold that up, you can see how that reacts, how the edges just kind of spread out. And then at this point, if you want, this will kind of mess up that citrus, but it kind of it wasn't really pretty. So I'm just going to kind of roll my tray around. Okay, so now I have that kind of messy background. Now, if you want to take your alcohol ink, because that's what we're going to play with today, now you can already see, because I have that citrus in there, if you look really close, you can see how that black India ink separates, and I really like that. So that's just from rolling my tray around and having the acidity from the coffee and that citrus in there. And I have quite a bit of liquid on here right now. So I'm kind of just letting it take a minute and soak in. And I'm going to grab this little tray and kind of balance it here and choose a color. So let's see. Let me use something that you'll see. This is red pepper. And I'm just going to put a few drops into that last little cell. I need a place to sit this. And again, this is alcohol ink, so this is not the other ones. I'm just going to show you to compare. So I could go straight with this, and I'll show you what it does for the difference. So if I just go straight with that, I'm just throwing some ink on there. And I have that citrus already. Oops. So you see how it goes onto the paper? So it gives you a really nice kind of watercolor where you have it's darker around the edge and it's already kind of spreads out. But what happens, what my favorite thing to do was, if I add a little alcohol to that, and they have blending alcohol, and I do have a little bottle of that, but I found if I just put just the regular alcohol in there, you get kind of a whole resist thing. And I really like this look for me because I'm not trying to get a lot of this dark color in it. I want the color to be subtle because I like my backgrounds for my grungy things kind of neutral and washed out looking. So for me, I kind of like this look. Now I may go and just to even out that one little spot, I may go ahead and add some more without the alcohol. You can see because I have so much liquid on here that it made a nice effect right away, but then it kind of just spreads out and is light. You see that? Versus that nice defined little slot. And it lightens the color of it too, so it's really subtle. So it's just a different look. So I'm gonna go ahead just to even out where I did the darker splotches, and I'm gonna put a little bit more in this one next door here, just so I can get that all over my paper. So you can do the same thing then, and I think I'll do that in this one, just we'll get it going really crazy. And so this again is just without the alcohol, just to get some of those all over my paper. So I have both going on now, the dark and the light. And you can add other colors then too. So that already looks like two different colors of things going on, but I did it with the same ink just by adding alcohol to one. So I really kind of like that. And again, you can add, you know, a different color in here if you want. So maybe I add to this because I like the kind of natural stone looking things. So maybe I add in a, let's see, a metallic one. So this is by Tim Holtz Steel, and this is a mixative gold ore. So it's really kind of like adding those alcohol metallics to it. So I'm going to show you the difference between this one and the gold. I'm going to put this one here, and I'll put a little bit in the other one too, just so we can add some alcohol. And then I'm going to also do the gold acrylic ink. So it's still an ink, but it's an iridescent bright gold in the Liquitex acrylic ink. So I'm going to put that, and just so we can compare the difference and see if there's really anything. So this is gold. I'm going to put this here. And I'm not going to mix this with water a lot. You can thin it out if you want to a little bit. I want them to show up, and I think because there are 3 different things, let me add alcohol to one of these. I want to see if how different they look. So I'm going to add alcohol to the one on the left. So let's start with the one with no alcohol. Now I may have a little on my brush still, and you're not seeing this very much, but okay, this one is with alcohol. So again, you get that resist sort of look. But my guess is when this is dry, those resists are going to be outlined, be like a circle outlined with gold, I'm hoping. And then I'm going to rinse my brush just to behave here. And then this is the gold acrylic ink, not mixed with anything. Now, again, normally I would mix this with a little bit of water, but I kind of want these to show up. So they'll be a little bit more opaque. Okay, I'm going to hold this up closer so that you can see, if you can see them, the difference. So here you could see I have my gold acrylic ink. You're not going to really see the ones that were the resist because they spread out. So you don't really, it's hard to tell which ones were the red or which ones are the gold. So maybe when it's dry, we'll see a difference. I don't know for sure. But anyway, I like how things are puddling and all of that, because when that dries, that's going to soak in more, and you're just going to have, you know, these defined areas a little better. I just think that's going to be really pretty. So now what I would do to this one is to put some salt on it. And again, if I put, say I go for these really dark areas, just as a place to put salt, just kind of aim for certain spots. And then you can always go into with the finer salt and maybe get some of those in between areas that are still wet. And that's going to give you that finer texture. So I'm going to leave that one. And just for fun, I'm not going to stack this one because it's on this special paper. I'm going to try to lift this up and just take it over and lay it on my garbage bag so that can be drying. Okay, so that was the photo paper that was not shiny. This one is shiny. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to worry about the back at all because it has a watermark on it anyway, so it's not going to be double-sided. So this one I will go and put my coffee. And I have not tried using coffee on Yupo paper. I only have that one little pad. So I'm just going to do it on this glossy photo paper. And again, the only reason I didn't really love this was that it's glossy. I mean, for something, it might be kind of nice to have that texture in a project, you know, so there'll be some contrast, just the shiny and not shiny. The other thing is maybe you could coat it with a matte, like a matte Mod Podge or something like that to take away the shine. I mean, there's things that you can do. So, but I'm just playing around with this. So we're just going to do it like this. So I have that on there, just my coffee. And let's see, let's go with some alcohol inks. I'm going to do, show you what it looked like to just go straight. The big circles that I had were because I had just went straight. And actually, you know what? Because I'm going to go straight and I know I'm not going to like it, I'm going to at least make it be gold. So I'm hoping this will show up, but on camera. But I think I might like this better. So I probably shouldn't have made such a pattern of it, but just dropping. Okay, so I was using the gold mixative. And actually, I do like how that looks. When I used just the ink, I wasn't really happy with it. So this is on that shiny paper. And actually, the ink on the shiny paper does go a little bit better. Let me pick another color that is not a huge contrast. We'll do some sunshine yellow. Do I want sunshine yellow? Or maybe I should do, because I love this one's Stream. I don't know what this looks like. I haven't tried this one yet. Let's see. Yeah, this might be nice. Okay, I'm going to try this. I really like how this is, so I hate to ruin it. So maybe I'll let fear take over, and I'll put some alcohol in it first. So I put a little drop there. So I'm going to... I just hate to ruin this if I might like it. And I'm thinking of splatters, I would like it. So it's very diluted with the alcohol. And I think what I'll do is I'll add, once I've done this, I'll add some more ink to that. Or what I could do, see, I'm liking those colors. What I could do is try the Delusions ink in a similar color, and we'll see the difference. So I have the Delusions ink spray, and I'm not going to spray it. I'm going to just put a little bit. I am liking how that gold's even breaking up. So I'm going to put a little bit of this here and add a little bit of alcohol. Okay, I'm really liking how that looks. Zoom in a little bit better. I just really like how it's spreading out, very watercolor looking. Okay, so this is the Delusions mixed with a little bit. Oh, and I'll tell you what color in just a minute these were. So this is really pretty. This is less diluted. And I'll tell you what colors these were again. So the alcohol ink, this was called Stream. The Delusions ink spray that I use, is there a color on this? Turquoise Vine was the color. And then the other one that I have that I think will be similar is Mermaid in the alcohol ink. So just a couple drops of that. I've done that here. And I think I want, even the tiniest bit of alcohol. Maybe before I do that, let me see what it's like on this paper to just do it straight with no alcohol. I don't have enough ink in there now. So it's just darker, and it's going to kind of feather a little bit, but it's not much. Now I need more because I did not get enough. Okay, I'm going to try that again. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the alcohol, because that's what gives you that resist look. Okay, I thought I was not going to like this paper. And I might, if they were some bigger splotches, so you could actually even just kind of roll your tray around a little bit, and it will help to spread some of those things out a little. But I actually really kind of like that. You can, there's enough liquid on here. You can really get kind of that natural stone marble-y sort of look. And then again, if I add my salt, I'm just going to give it that kind of that more granite kind of texture. So I'm going to go in the center here with mostly the fine salt. And then maybe on those two corners with the more coarse salt. So this is what it looks like as far as how much salt I put on it. Sorry if it's a little fuzzy. And then we'll let that one dry too. And I'm not going to stack this one just because nothing's going to happen on the back side of this anyway. So I'm going to go put this on to dry. Okay, now for a piece of this vellum. And then we'll get to just some regular paper for fun. I pulled out a few of these actually because I liked this so much that I think I want to try some with color. Okay, so this was hard to work with, but you're going to see why. So I'm going to coat one side again because I want it to stick down. Now, I could and probably should leave this just like this, but I'm going to show you what I did in my experiment and what happened so that you don't freak out. It's just going to roll up like this. So I coated this side. Just so that I have both sides nice and coated, but you see it's just going to roll up. So let me zoom back out a little bit. So what I did then, I was just turned it over again so that I could stick it down to my tray. And I might even stack a couple of these and then try to pull them off. Might regret it, but I want to see, and I haven't tried that yet. Okay, so now I have it stuck down to my tray. And this might be hard for you to see because it's transparent, translucent. But I just love how you're going to get all that texture because of the wrinkles. And that's just what vellum wants to do, but that's how you get this really amazing effect. So I liked how the first one turned out. So let's try this one. The other one was with all kind of neutrals. So I'm going to just get a little more coffee on here again, just so I have a good amount of liquid to see my paper kind of. I want it to settle in there. And then I want to add some color in this one. And I might, let's see, just for fun, I'm going to go straight with this and see what happens. I have no idea. So again, this was just with the stream, but I want to show you what happens if I just put alcohol on that. So I'm just going to use this little pipette thing and break it up. So I have quite a bit of alcohol on that. And that's okay because I really want it to run a lot because I want to break up those blobs. Oh, my salt is kind of moving around. And then I want to add another color. Now I'm going to see what happens. So you see that alcohol is like a resist. My coffee doesn't want to sit on it. So I'm going to see what happens if I just wanted some more running. And I don't really mind that those mixed like that. It gave me some yellow and blue. It's making that green, and it's really kind of muddy because of the coffee. But I actually like that because I want this to be super grungy and the color to be a little subtle. So I think what I'm going to do to make some splatters is go back to these that I already had mixed. I still have a little in here. And see what happens if I add, if they'll show up at all. I think they're just going to disappear, but they may end up, you know, when they're dry. We'll see. That's why it's an experiment. And then I think the thing that I'm going to add, if you can see this, it's really kind of just a mess. My little splatters aren't really showing up at all. So I think what I'm going to do, and I think on this one they didn't really either. It's really mostly running and that kind of thing. And it's the salt that made the difference. So I'm going to use some coffee grounds out of my little shaker. And I'm kind of putting them where I have liquid puddled. And as long as I don't move it around too much, these will just spread out from the liquid, if you can see that. So that's actually going to look really cool, I think. And follow with a bunch of salt. And I want both sizes again. So now I have what looks like a huge mess on here, but I'm going to leave that. I'm going to see if I can pull that off so that it can be drying. And then I'm going to do maybe the next round, I'll do 2 of these to see if you get anything on the back side. I don't know that you will. And I think I'm going to take my whole tray over there so that I don't disturb it too much. This one I'm going to do, I think I'm just going to put the coffee on one side. And see what happens. And then I'm going to do some black because I really liked how that looked before. And this is actually because it's less diluted. I think it's going to maybe have a little bit different. Now, my tray may still have some alcohol on it just because I introduced so much before. So there may be some areas of resistance. You see how it's really thready looking? That's kind of a cool look. Looks like roots, tree roots. I just love how you really never know what you're going to get. Now my paper's curling it because I didn't flip it. So I think what I might do, get that edge wet, maybe it will help. Because I want to try just to lay another piece on top of this. Or maybe I'll go plain paper and then another piece of vellum. Because I think it might, because these are bubbling up so much in those creases that they may really transfer to this. So I'm gonna need to flip this. So I'm gonna coffee one side and then flip it so that this paper that's touching the vellum won't be white. I won't have white spots. And I'm just going to see if I can get kind of that tree look. Have no idea if this is going to work. I have not tried this before. Okay, since this is plain paper and I haven't tried the alcohol on it at all yet, I already know from previous experiments I don't like dropping it just on the paper. So I'm going to put it on, I'll do this. What color do I want? I don't have very many colors of alcohol ink. I'm going to use this as teak wood. I'm going to use this one just because I kind of like knowing that underneath is kind of neutral. I want this to stay kind of neutral too. Even though I wanted to introduce color, I just can't help but feel like the grungy things are nice with a lot of neutral contrast. And I like turquoise and those kind of colors. So, and I like them with a neutral color. So that's kind of why I use those the most. But we're going to see if this shows up at all. I diluted it way too much with the alcohol. So I'm going to do more. And actually, I think I'm just going to dip my brush into the India ink. Since I have so much alcohol on there now. And I want some bigger blobs. And then I know I'm going to mess things up, but I want to roll this around because I want some movement. And you can see the splatters that had the alcohol in it. Those are still going to kind of be there, I guess. And then I think I don't want to play with this too much. I know I want salt right here, so I think I'm going to, probably should do this last, but because I think I also want a few more splatters of something here. So I think I'm going to try this bronzy one maybe. And I'm going to put this in a little cup because, or actually I can put it here. I'm just going to put it here in this gold one. Now I'm also going to dip it into one I know has a little alcohol just to see. And sometimes I think I do too much. I should just stop, and I cannot stop myself. So I think that's pretty good. I do want to add a little bit more salt because this is the fine salt. And just for good measure, some of my coffee grounds. And then I'm going to put another piece, because I have not tried this, to alternate them. I'm going to put a piece of vellum again. And so this is going to be very weak coffee. Oops. Okay, and I'm going to flip this. I need to add a little more coffee to my coffee here. Sorry, I know I'm kind of off to the side here, but I don't think you really care if you see exactly what I'm doing over there. I'm adding more coffee. I was just empty. So I'm going to flip this, and it's going to curl up on me, but I'll flip it back over. It's just the only way I think I'm going to get this to stay down. Okay, I have huge mess under there. But that is the fun about these. And so this one is going to wrinkle up, hopefully, give me some really good wrinkles that I have on both sides of that plain piece of paper. I mean, I like how that looks just like that. So maybe all I do is, I did color on one, so maybe I just do, I'm going to add a little to that metallic. And again, this didn't show up very much before. I know I'm completely mixing these together, but I don't want to waste my material. And it's just going to give it, my metallic, a little deeper color. And because I can't stop myself, that's enough. So that's what my tray looks like now, a huge mess. And I'm going to see if I can get these onto my plastic bags and see if I can get those to dry. Okay, I got those off, and I don't think I'm going to do any more experiments now, so I'm going to let those dry and then I'll come back. Okay, so I'm back with my papers after they have dried. Now, I let these dry again naturally on the opened garbage bags that I have on the floor of my studio. And I actually prefer that method, even though it takes a little longer, because the papers come out a little flatter and they don't have those bubbles. They're just not as crispy and wonky as they are when I bake them in the oven. Now, maybe if I bake them much slower and lower temperature, then they would maybe not get as brittle and crispy. And that's the other thing, that the baked ones, I'm not sure, and I won't know until I've scanned these so that I can fold them in half. But I'm not even sure which group this is. I think these were done on the, I think these were done in the oven. I'm not sure when I go to fold them how brittle some of them might be. These feel pretty good, but I won't know until I scan these and then can fold them in half. But I'm thinking that doing them naturally, drying either outside or, you know, on the floor or whatever, letting them air dry, they're not going to be as brittle. Okay, so these are the ones that I just did, and I just did a few. Let's see, I think I went this way. In fact, I think this one I may have done in a different video, in a different batch. So I started with, I think this one I think was the first in this video, with the alcohol inks, and this was on the paper that is the matte photo paper. So I like how it turned it out. It's not really my color palette, and I really did a lot of splatters just to play. So you can do less and not have it be so busy, but I wanted to kind of do these few experiments with every element, just so we can kind of see a comparison. So you can see where the salt was laid down here, those little small darker spots, where it's white with the darker outline. So that is all where salt was dropped. And then you can see these darker red color are with the alcohol ink not diluted. And then these larger light colored pink cells are where I use the alcohol ink with alcohol diluting it. So this, we did a variety of things, but you can see all of the texture. The paper on this one feels pretty smooth. You can feel where the salt was, but just visually all that texture is really kind of cool. Okay, so that was one. And this was the one that was done on the photo paper. And on this one, you really feel the texture, where I would really have to work a little harder to get, I think there's still some salt on here that I need to scrub off a little bit more even. It does still have that sheen, you can see the reflection, but I really love this color palette. And I do like how the gold is what I dropped first. And I do like how that came out. If you can see all that, I'm trying to get close up without losing my focus here. Let's see over here. So I like that. I like how it works on this. This to me is the most similar to if you did use Yupo paper. Again, you might ask, why did you not use Yupo paper? It's because I only have that small package and they're small pieces, and I wanted to try papers that maybe are less expensive, something that you might have on hand, because I don't just keep that on hand either. So I wanted to kind of see how you could use alcohol inks on other things, how they would work. So you do feel all this texture. I'm not wild about the shine of it, but I do like how, you know, by comparison, I do like how the alcohol inks react on this glossier paper. And then I did my favorite with this is the front side, this would be the back side. I do love how it works on vellum. So this was on the vellum paper. And when you iron out the vellum, it's really hard to get all the wrinkles out, but I like that because that just adds more texture again. So I'm gonna try to get this in here without losing my focus. But I think you can see all of that texture. And I'm hoping that when I scan these for a digital kit, that all that texture will still show up, even printing it onto, you know, flat paper. At least I think some of it will, if I get a good scan. So I really love how this turned out. I really like this color palette. This is kind of more my style than, say, this one. And then this is how the one that came, I didn't do too much on it. I liked how it was looking kind of like tree branches, kind of a look. And I can't tell, I think this is the back side and this is the front side. The ink's a little darker. So it doesn't have, there's not as much salt or anything on it, but it still has, just by the nature of this vellum, how it wrinkles up, you do get texture, even though I didn't put much salt, or I don't know if I put any on the top of this, but it did get some from the layers that I added. So that was, I think, the first layer. This is where I did the experiment where I layered a piece of vellum and then I did a piece of paper on top, and you can kind of see this would have been the back side that was laying here. So it did transfer some of that tree branchy look to the back side. And then again, because this was dried on my garbage bag, you get some additional wrinkles in there. So that was laying there. And then I used the metallic, and I did use salt and everything in this one. But this was just on the regular 24-pound paper, just regular printer paper. So I really, this, you know, to me is just a nice neutral grungy background. And then this was the top piece, which I think is probably my favorite. So this piece went this way on top of this one. And then I added more to it. So you can see I did put a lot of salt, so you do get a lot of this white crusty texture is from the salt that comes off, and that looks like just really cool. And then because I had metallic in this, I know that you can't see it, but these darker spots are the bronze metallic. And just because there was a lot of liquid, and then I think also just with salt that won't come off now, is I have a shimmer to this that is not really catching on camera, but it's there. So I really like how the vellum turned out. I'm gonna have to do some more of that. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up, leave any comments down below. I'm gonna go right into my next 2 videos, I think, and actually put them together in one. And so that's gonna be up next with a couple of more techniques. So have a great rest of your day. Now go make something. Bye.